I didn't get the fast train. If I got the fast train a little bit quicker.
But that's not too bad because driving in London, sometimes I'm going like halfway across to London, it's taking me an hour and a half.
Yeah. It would have taken an hour and a half if I drove, but I have to get to the event, innit? And then congestion charge.
Sorry, little brag, the event.
Well,
what event's that? What event's that?
Oh, it's the property event.
The property event?
The property event, simple as that. The property event.
The property event. That's a great intro. Welcome back to another episode of the Property by Kazy podcast. Today, we fortunately have the man himself, Mr. Marketing, the yellow bumblebee, Tej Talks.
Thanks for having me, Kaz. I'm really happy to be here, as always.
It's good to have you down again. It's good actually to have in-person meetups.
Yeah.
Because obviously I joined social media when we couldn't do this. So
of course,
all of my first podcast interviews, everything was online. I was messing up the sound, messing up the visuals. So it's actually good to sit down and talk to real people in real life.
100%, so much better.
Real experiences. So the first question is, are you a real property developer?
Yeah, but I've sort of become a bit more of a lifestyle developer, you know? In that before, like when I bought 15 properties in my first 9 months, I was on a mission.
Casual brag.
And I was going crazy. I was a different person. I was like, got to buy, got to do this, got to hit this target. And then lately it's more like, you know what, we'll do 1-2 flips a year, get the cash from that, put it in someone else, reinvest it, build a lifestyle from that. I'm sort of a lot more casual and less like, oh, have to hit this, have to do this. It's kind of more based on the actual monetary terms than it was before, which was just like, well, I need 12 of these houses and I need them tomorrow. And so I'm definitely real, but I think I'm different to what I started out to be, and I'm different to what some of your guests are going to come on and show, and I'm also different to, I suppose, what I thought I would be. Yeah, so I'd definitely say I'm a real property developer. I'm very different to how I started. In my first 9 months, I bought 15 properties and it was very goal orientated. We've got to hit this, got to hit this cash flow. It's like, oh, well, it's the start of the month. Why haven't we bought anything? But then since then, you know, I suppose having a cash flowing portfolio makes me like this, but I've become more of a lifestyle developer where I'll do 1, 2, 3 flips a year, chuck in a new build, you know, coming soon. And I'm happy with that. And it's more kind of driven off the fact that with these chunks of cash, with a portfolio, I can pay some debt down. I can invest it in other places and do a lot with it, especially in the current market. Or I can use it to live off. So I've kind of become a less sort of goal-orientated, need this, need that kind of developer, but a more, okay, how many do we need to do to pay for everything and then some? And then what am I doing with that money that interests me? So definitely a real property developer or investor, but different to how a lot of people might think I am. And the kind of way I work has definitely changed from the beginning.
I think that's interesting. For a lot of people, everything you've just said is very aspirational to a lot of them in terms of being able to have that flexibility or that freedom, but also to get the opportunity to do what you did at the beginning. So for those that don't know as much about your journey, you were in recruitment or had your own recruitment?
Yeah, I had my recruitment business for a few years, yeah.
And then before that, you were in?
Medical marketing, so marketing for doctors, so kind of a bit boring.
But in terms of what was it like, that transition and that jump, those 3 steps all seem completely out of a comfort zone or out of a space. What was the steps, you know, between each of those, and what sort of took you from one to the other? Yeah,
I think if we look at the job I had in medical marketing, there was this culture, which I've learned since then is in every job, where you get paid for a 9 to 5, but you're in the office at 6. And I was like, okay, cool, I assume I'm getting paid for this. What an idiot I was. I even said to the MD, I was like, so you know I've been in for 6 for the past week, does that reflect on the pay? Like a young boy I was, and he goes, no. I was like, why the hell am I here then? Why are any of you weirdos here past the time you're getting paid for? I get you're passionate about your work, but trust me, I am not passionate enough to work for someone else and not get paid for it. And this kept building up in me, and I kept thinking, nah, this is super weird. Our clients were morons, you know, they didn't know what they were doing, which is why they hired us. Long story short, I jumped job within that, got a big pay rise and was like, great. And then I got fired because they
Did you call somebody a moron?
Well, I under my breath, I'm sure I did multiple times. They just said, look, you're not delivering what we thought you would. You've changed your view. I read about pharmaceuticals. I just changed, and I knew that I couldn't do this. It was just, I just couldn't deal with the culture. So got fired, went home, and you know, telling my Indian family about that was fun.
You were the medical guy.
I was a medical guy. It's my second job. Well, yeah, basically, it was just like silence. Silence is the worst thing, right? Because like, am I in trouble? Am I good? Yeah, it's like, what's happening here? And I thought, right, I wasn't happy with the ethics in that. So let me go to a really ethical business, recruitment, not. So what I really wanted was something that gave me what I put into it, right? So recruitment is, if you don't work, you don't make money, right? Simple as that. Every person you place in a job, you get paid for. So it was kind of obvious to me that, okay, I place 4 people, I get 4 payments. Simple. I did that for a bit. Then it kind of became golden handcuffs, where I hated it, but it was making decent money. Actually really good money for people who had never started their own business. It's a painful business, it's hard, but the money is good. And so I did that for 3.5 years, did a bit of contracting. And then at that point, again, I really didn't like it and thought, why am I doing this? Life's too short. Watching grand designs, amazing spaces, playing Sims, the video game Sims where you build houses and stuff. I just love that.
I've never heard Sims inspiration for
Listen,
property.
because Sims, some people like playing the characters and shit. I'm just like, no, let me design this like cool mansion. And I was like, right, property. Assets, wealth, a lot of rich people have property, cash flow. I built up a cash pot and thought, you know what, actually, now is the time to maybe go into assets instead of working for time. And then using some of the cash, mainly used other people's cash for the whole journey, which we can talk about. I did some education, self-education, podcasts, books, all that kind of stuff. And then got into property, really. So that's kind of the abridged life story.
Which is interesting you said about Sims, because I often hear, for a lot of people, the first reason, because it's tangible, you can touch it, you can go and buy a house, you understand the value that, I've bought a house maybe myself just as a residential. So it's for a lot of people, when you start to make money and have more disposable income. But it's also, I think Grand Design and a lot of these shows actually influence the culture. A lot of us, I think Homes Under the Hammer is one, I think apart from EastEnders, is the longest running show on BBC.
Wow.
I think it's in 27 seasons with averaging 30 episodes a season.
That's the British culture, isn't it? Englishman in his castle. It's a thing here, isn't it?
It is so, but then you went from wanting to do it to really doing it and buying 12 properties in 9 months. 15 properties. Oh, sorry. Just put a little edit there.
You can't take away the 3 properties of stress that I have to deal with.
Yeah, just minus the ones that didn't go that well.
Yeah.
So this is, this is the social media one.
Yeah,
put
exactly.
the good ones out only.
Yeah, of course, like everyone else, yeah.
But so how did you achieve that?
I'm impatient, clearly, or I was quite impatient, and I was doing buy-to-lets, which is quite a sort of boring, vanilla, low-income strategy, and I kind of knew, right, if I had HMOs, I could buy 2 or 3 and be good. Everything covered, we're done. But I knew, I need to hit some numbers here. It's the only way that 300, 350 quid a month per property was actually going to make an impact. And I had enough savings for a year to kind of live. I lived at home, so it was easy. So at that point, I suppose I had a plan, but my plan was actually to buy something like 5 properties in the first year. That changed drastically when I realized I can use investor funds and I can find deals all from my brand and all from social media and networking. And as that started to happen, I realized, well, hold on a minute, why do I only want 5 when I've just bought 5? And yes, it was difficult, very difficult, don't get me wrong. A lot of people make it look super easy. I just thought, well, if I'm buying 1, I might as well buy 2. If I'm buying 2, I might as well buy 4. It was just the impatience and the fact that if you can do 1, there's big caveats to this, you can do 3. And I think the brand was central to giving me the money to actually do it and also getting me some of the deals. So really
How early on did you start your brand?
I started it before I probably did a property viewing. So, 2018? Yeah, 2018 I started it.
And you bought your first property?
I think it was 2019.
Okay, so what were you doing? What were you doing within the brand while you were still sort of honing your own skill set? What were you doing to sort of build brand awareness?
So I started with a podcast, which is very difficult. Anyone out there who wants to do a podcast, it's a one-way medium. There's no comments, there's no likes, there's no engagement. It's like you put your voice out and that's it. At the moment anyway. I don't know why it hasn't evolved. So at the time, that was really hard because you wouldn't hear about my podcast unless I told you in some shape or form. So I was on Instagram, I was on Facebook, probably did it on LinkedIn, and I was basically showing my journey. So I was, learning about this on properties and I'd show that. I was looking on Rightmove for this and I'd show that. I was eventually going to viewings. I was getting, parred off by agents saying, oh, your offer's a joke. I was putting in offers. I was seeing huge cracks in every single thing that I did. every single step that I took, I basically documented. So people could see me go from like, this guy doesn't know anything, to, oh, okay, he's learning, but whilst also helping people who are one step behind.
That's good. And how did you find the networking helped you during that process?
You know what, networking helped probably primarily with like my knowledge gain, because at that time, and this changes, the more experience you get, networking kind of shifts what you get from it sometimes. I was meeting people who were doing all sorts of strategies in different areas and using permitted development, using planning and just, you know, doing buy-to-lets, but doing them as essays or doing something different. And just by hearing their stories and kind of learning, oh, that's how much cash flow that makes, but you've had these challenges, or it kind of allowed me to not have the shiny penny syndrome and focus, because I heard some and thought, I don't want to do that.
I've been hearing shiny, for the previous podcast I did, shiny penny. Do you know Alfred by any chance?
Alfred, yes, he's the really muscular guy, right?
Yeah, wears quite small t-shirts.
Zara extra small, I heard. Slim fit.
So he mentioned shiny pennies. So sometimes, you know, these phrases get thrown around, especially when we attend a lot of the same networking meetings. We just by default end up saying the same thing.
It is, and I think it's kind of like, it's a very easy way to describe not being focused and chasing, you know, oh, that strategy, this strategy, that strategy.
Because that's been my thing very early. I've always said, look, I think I'm quite risk adverse naturally. So like once I find something that works, I'm like, no, you sell me. Like you can't just show me something. You've really got to sell me something to make me pivot or do something else, which in some instances may not be great because it's kind of blinders on, like focus. Yeah. But at the same time, sometimes it helps you just push towards that focus, gives you a PB in whatever you're currently doing. And then when you sort of become a specialist and an expert in a field, you can move forward. But for those that don't know, like I'm sort of the opposite to Tej in terms of I did loads of property and had no branding. And it was only when I came onto Instagram 2019, thinking I was just starting to put out little pictures. I'd had a lot of projects that I'd done and I was looking for people to follow. Tej was one of the first people I think I followed. I think I was following like maybe 20, 30 people, I had like 100 followers. And I saw Tej quite early on. And I think like, if I'm honest, like I pay homage to people that like, you know, I think I learned a lot from just the importance of branding and brand awareness and people actually, because I wasn't on social media and I didn't really have conversations about what I did. Like a lot of my friends didn't even know what I did. They were just literally like fully oblivious to like, I don't know if he works. You just see him in a tracksuit all the time. He's never doing anything. He's messy a lot of the time. The other day he had cement in his hair. Like, you know, I have no idea what I'm actually doing. But then obviously when I saw you talking about the importance of kind of, not like in a bragging way, but just shouting about, look, this is what I do. If you do something similar or there's a way that we can work together, then I got a lot of benefit from that. And, you know, I built a following and done quite well. And there's loads of great things. I've had loads of great opportunities. Like I've met with people that want to give me millions of pounds. I've bought houses from Instagram. I've been paid, and I think it's a testament to that. If you do something right and you build that solid foundation from day one, whatever else you want to build off the back of that, it has stable ground to work off. So I definitely think, you know, for those that, not just property, but obviously it's a property podcast, for those that are looking to get into property, how you position yourself in this space is really important. Like if you want to be a great deal sourcer, like a lot of people come in and say they want to do deal sourcing.
Most deal sourcers are absolute shit. You know you are.
There's a lot of rubbish deal sources, but also there's a lot of rubbish investors that say, just get me anything that's got good value in it. Yep. But then because you want anything, you don't have the ability to appraise a deal, so you end up buying the rubbish one that somebody gave you great bad comps on because you don't want to take the time to do the relevant comps. So then I think it is sort of like chicken and egg in terms of, is it rubbish deal sources or rubbish investors? Because there's a lot of people that are so eager to get their first deal and they want that shiny penny deal that looks amazing that they just they try and massage the numbers to make the deal make sense rather than doing their numbers and seeing, does the deal make sense? Yeah,
well, they ask too much. Some investors want all money out and then some from a source, and it's like, it's very slim, in some places.
It's just understanding, and I think, we have this conversation a lot. We're just understanding what you want out of anything. Yeah. Because also, if you don't know whether or not you want cash flow or capital appreciation or the maximum amount of money out or the minimum amount of money in to start with, how can a sourcer find you a good deal? You're just saying, find me a property deal. Yeah. I can find you a shed in Barnsley, or I can find you you need to let us know within reason the parameters. But I use the example of a sourcer because that would be a USP for a lot of people in property to be like, look, I don't necessarily always get the best deals, but there'll be great comps and there'll be realistic numbers. And position yourself very specifically in terms of what you're hoping to offer. Because whether you're talking to Tej or myself, like if the deal doesn't make sense because it doesn't stack for me, I can just turn around and say, look, that deal doesn't stack, but if you've got anything else, let me know. If you give me a deal and I'm like, that deal doesn't even make sense, like on a calculator, it's all wrong, then I'll just look at it like, I can't really deal with you because you're wasting my time.
Remember, if they don't make sense, they don't make dollars.
Is that in a rap?
Yeah.
It's good rap, that. So, Tej is just here to be very silly all the time. Every day. Because he's rich now, he's become a comic. Just here for the joke.
I wish.
So then I've seen recently, obviously, you started off, and we've got previous podcasts on the Ask Someone Else where we spoke about specifically about the numbers and things like that. So if you do want to look at that, I'll put a link below so you can go back and check that out. Below. But I think I'm more interested specifically now to talk about where you've moved into, because like you said, you've potentially got a new build coming up.
I mean, I'm looking.
You're looking at potentially doing a new build. You've gone into more flips, similar levels of involvement in the refurb, but higher GDVs.
Yes. So same headache, more money.
And that's it, because for a lot of people sometimes, when you're looking at, particularly like maybe, I have these conversations with people that are like, look, I've got £70,000, what could I do with that £70,000? And a lot of the time, say for example, you're looking at that property in South Wales, it's going to cost you 52,000. Realistically, you have to buy it cash to get in competitively. And a lot of the time,
in this market, yeah,
you have to be competitive enough. If when we're in a buoyant market, a seller's market, if you want to get that property at a decent price and actually be the one to buy it and not be sort of like gazumped a couple of days later, you kind of have to be in a position to move quite quickly. But then your uplift and the level of refurb you have to do is going to sit pretty much the same as if you could maybe find something else on a bridge, but a more expensive property. But then when you're looking at your sort of return on capital employed, it can often be a lot better. So just finding that balance can be good. So how do you generally finance? Like what's your way of financing your deals?
So pretty much the last X many deals, I can't remember, the last couple have been just an investor. Here's
Investor.
Here's 100% plus of the purchase price. Usually it's 100% plus refurb. Here's the money, see you in 12 months, bye. Don't talk to them, they're not interested. They're just like, you're giving me a return. I've also done some earn and learn, which is a 0% loan where they get access to like my mentorship, my e-learning, all this sort of stuff instead of money. And if you're new to property, it's probably going to be worth more than a couple of quid. So those are the main kind of ways that I've borrowed money. However, I've used bridges before with an investor as the deposit and as the refurb. There are bridging products out there that give you the refurb and 75%, which is pretty cool because you just need the deposit and fees and a bit more upfront for the refurb to get it started. For me, investors are the easiest way to do it. And having a brand and having a track record means that I can raise money. And like I'm buying a flip now in Wales, and it's going to be very hands-off because of the builder, who I know really well. And the investor on my flip now that we're selling, I just sent him a text saying, hey, I've got a deal, do you want to roll over for another 12 months? He's like, yeah, just send me the loan agreement, we'll just do it. As easy as that.
Which I think is great, and it's great to get to a point where you're there. And we spoke about the fact that because you had a brand, it was potentially easier to find those investors and not have people ask you for 37 charges on every property you've ever looked at and opened your eyes and seen. But obviously for those that are looking at raising investor finance, like what would you say you need to have kind of prepared, whether it's just conversationally or documents wise, if you want to have, if investors saying, look, I'm potentially interested, let's have a coffee. What would you kind of say that you'd say, look, this is the prep I'd say you need to prepare for?
So I think everyone does this a little bit differently. I tend to be really casual because of the brand, but I think if people are starting out, firstly, you need to know the deal inside out. You need to know worst case, best case, middle case, COVID case, Brexit case. You need to just know, you should anyway for yourself, right? Know the deal inside out, but you need to be able to communicate it confidently, because some investors might be like, oh, well, tell me about this part, tell me about this. And you're like on edge. You have to be confident enough in it, which when you're starting out, you might not be. Try and get someone to look over it, right? But have the confidence and understanding of the deal is the first thing. But also take that same understanding and confidence to like the structure of it. So, right, it's a 12-month loan, you get paid at the end of the term, first charge is available, or it's a personal loan, or it's whatever it is. Like, understand all of that, because when they ask a question, there might be some things that they, oh, what about this covenant on the title? You say, look, let me speak to my solicitor. Most other things, 99% of things you want to say, this is the answer. Not, hold on a second, you want to know it. You can prepare an investor pack. I think they can be quite useful, especially if you're new to it, because it's like, I suppose like Dragon's Den, right? When they go on and they have all their merchandise.
Also, if you've kind of done an investor pack that you've sent out pre-meeting, potentially if you're not, because not everybody's like, you're really confident when speaking. Not everybody is like that. That's not a skill set that everybody has. So potentially, I say if you know that that's not your skill set, then do things around that's going to help you, be in the best position as possible. So, like you said, that investor pack, you could say, look, here's the investor pack. Let me know if you've got any questions, and then we can discuss them over coffee. So if there are questions, you can pre-prep yourself for those questions, because there may be stuff you know the answer to, but you just want to be able to deliver it in, a more concise way to make sure that they feel confident in you and vice versa. Yeah,
100%. I think another thing I'd say is, like, when you're kind of, maybe more conversationally, but you really want to understand their sort of objectives or motives for giving you the money. Do they need, some surgery in a year? Is it to help retire someone? Is it to pay for their car payments for the next year? Like, what do they want it for? And like, how are you going to help them get there? Because this also brings up the objections, because they may say, well, like I wanted 10% because that would then help me pay for this thing. But if we're talking at 8% right now, it doesn't let me pay for that. If you understand all of this, you can then handle that objection, maybe even before they bring it up, and say, look, I know you wanted 10, and I get that, your Audi A7 Sportback costs, 700 quid a month, but you can then say, I know I'm giving you 500 a month, however, you're getting a charge, you're getting this, you're investing with me over some of these other people. So handling objections and understanding their motivations is key.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think how you need to present that value proposition. So if somebody else is saying, oh, but I could have got 12% from somebody else. Okay, but what did I give you that they haven't? And also then the value of your deal. Yeah. Because I've seen this in all types of property. Like when I was in rent to rent, and because I was a landlord already, in my head I had my landlord hat on and I wanted to offer everything. But because that's what I would want. Yeah. But then I also realized I'm overselling my service and I'm not getting paid the premium for it. So if you're offering like a first charge, then realistically you can offer a lower rate because that person's got more security. Same with versus a second charge. Same with like a loan agreement without a personal guarantee, depending on what your assets are. So you really got to think about what potentially you're offering to somebody. And also how much of their money, like what their worth is. Because if you're asking somebody for £50,000 that has £60,000,
I ain't doing it. I'm not taking it.
It's a very different conversation. Do you know what I mean? Between somebody that has £1 million and you want 100,000.
Yeah.
And they're really different conversations. Like London can be more difficult sometimes because of the level of finance you're potentially asking for. Like to do a flip in London, so like a bridge where you end up with about a 30% net like loan, like sort of a 70% loan to value, sort of when you work it out on the advance. Realistically, to even do a small flat deal, you need about 130 to 145,000 pounds, which is a massive amount of money. So when you're looking for that as to even do like an entry level deal, there are going to be more caveats to what somebody's going to ask for, because also in terms of what the money they've made in the past, their experience in finance, etc., they're going to want different things. But I think it's really just, like you said, understanding who you're dealing with, actually building that personal relationship, the personal brand that allows them to understand that you are actually going to deliver and this is a good investment. Because we're not, and the people that I'm going to have on this podcast are not charlatans. They're really doing what they say they do. And like, if you're listening to, I hope you're one of these people that's going to be doing, exactly what they say they're going to do as well. So we are trying to offer really good investment opportunities, but you need to be able to make sure that your potential investor understands why that is the case.
Yes. And the risks,
Yeah,
because
and the
you have a
risks,
duty to educate them on this is what your level of security, investor, this is what can go wrong, but here's how we mitigate it.
Yeah,
You should know that
here's
anyway.
how I've mitigated your risk. Here's your options, because also sometimes there's different options. Whether we talk about debt finance, equity finance, a mixture of the two. Whether they've got, if you're doing a JV, do they want to take a lower percentage for a preference, which means they get their money before you do? And there's so many different things, which kind of leads me on nicely to something I always like to discuss here, because people like to fight me on the internet about it, which is education. You knew that
I
was
love to fight on the internet, full stop. Yeah.
Listen, the internet is a crazy place.
Trust me, there's a lot of angry kids and trolls on there who got nothing better.
You see
when
when anything that I post gets picked up by the blog pages, I just wait. I always wait 24 hours and be like, the top comment is going to be something like, just something mad. Like it's always going to be.
Oh, you landlord stealing all our money and I can't afford to buy a house.
But it's always going to be like the negativity always rises to the top somehow. And I'm always like, and it's always the one with the most likes, and I'm like, there's a skill to being this like socially astutely negative. Like there must be a real skill to it.
Haters are getting smarter and like sharper,
and they're funny as well.
Some of them.
But I just use it as,
it's engagement as well. They're helping us. They don't realise.
But it's not even just that. Like, to be honest, sometimes I'm just like, look, if you lot have got the time and it makes you feel good. Like I'm confident in myself that I know what I'm doing. At any point in time, I'm sure we can have a conversation. I'll explain to you why you're 100% wrong. But on the internet, it doesn't matter who's right or who's wrong. It's who writes it first and gets the most likes.
Basically,
Which is a crazy world. So we've spoken about raising money. We've spoken about how you pivoted from a full-time job to running your own business to then getting into property. With what you're planning to do in the future, where do you see yourself going, like in property? Like what are your goals, short-term, long-term goals? 'Cause I know you said now it's almost lifestyle, but there may be a point in time where, like, again, lifestyle is very determinant on what you want this year.
Yeah.
And have you thought about what the future looks like for you?
Yeah, I'd say, I suppose as we come to the end of 2021, this is over the kind of Christmas break is when I usually write these down and reflect on them. But I'd say the number one minimum goal is going to be 6 figures from flip profits next year, because that'll cover everything.
Come do a little deal with me in London.
Hey, I'm down, man. I'm down. It's just too far from home.
Did you hear that? He's down.
I just don't want to travel.
He's gonna give me his
Listen, my radius of deals is getting smaller. Next thing is gonna be on my street.
But I've been. This is what's so funny. Like when like that's always been my thing. When people offer me a deal and I don't see an S at the beginning, I'm like, I don't speak that language. What's that? N what? W who? Yeah. But yeah, so like, I mean, I love a Croydon actually. Croydon's got a C in front of it. Croydon is my golden patch.
So I think, it's kind of more based off like that. Because that, 6 figures plus will cover more than anything. And then from that point, where I reinvest it will then do a lot more to it. So
because you already have like the income as well from the portfolio that you've built. Because I was backwards. I was doing flips with no income.
It's still a good strategy though, to build up to buying a portfolio, like potentially.
But then I did like kind of accidentally and then on purposely like build up a sort of mixed portfolio. However, there was a point in time after I did my first flip and it's like, I just made 40,000, 50,000. And then I was like, but I need to pay stuff like rent and other stuff. Like, and it's all just got in terms of, because my whole idea was like doing flips, capital appreciation, keep making more money, do a bigger deal, more deals, bigger deal, more deals. But then that's why I got into rent to rent initially, to like fill that void. And then as and when I built out a portfolio, I was like, look, it's not really for me anymore. But so you said you want to try and do a new build 2022, because we've seen on the internet, we've seen some of Tedge's issues with contractors and builders. How do you feel you're going to deal with a new build team? So you know what? Can I make a prediction?
You could go on, make a prediction, go on.
It's going to be your best experience.
It is. Do you know why? Because on a new build, a lot of it is outsourced, project managers, QSs, right? But secondly, with a new build, I say there's less that can go wrong. There isn't. There's 101 more things that can go wrong because of the levels.
But it's more like IKEA.
Yes, because I know, okay, well, we're 4 courses up, where's the fucking DPC? Put the DPC in. Where's the wall tile? Like, I know how to build a house.
You hear him already. He already sounds mad at somebody that doesn't exist on a deal he hasn't found. Like, I feel like,
the energy's
and you
there.
do like yoga and stuff. Are you not, like, is there not a way you can be more relaxed? Why do you have Like
I
energy.
just don't like builders. Full stop.
Oh,
There's a
but
few of you I like. There's one I really like.
There's
And the
some
rest are
great
okay.
builders, like
there are
them.
some great builders. I'm yet to find them.
But then look, you attract the energy that you put out there. No,
listen, they start off good and then...
But then also there's a balance, because also, you see the other problem with us as developers sometimes. We're wheeler dealers. We always want a discount. But like,
you know what, I've stopped asking for discounts.
sometimes you've got to
asking.
leave some meat on the bone, because it allows a builder. Pause. Listen, the more you subscribe, the more you got those notifications on, the more you comment, the more exclusive content that we can make for you. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Costs you nothing. Back to the video. So, Mr. Tej, you have a variety of learning materials online.
That I do.
You also are involved in a number of different, site visits, project planning, like deals, like appraisals. How have you found education in more holistically? Like, what education did you embark on? And what do you see as like the pros and cons of education? How to actually find a good educator or mentor?
So I'm self-educated. I did win a ticket to this 3-day event, and it was okay. But looking back, strategically certain things were missed for an upsell. It just didn't give you enough detail, and it basically was like, buy a house. You say buy a house, do the refurb, that bit, and then you rent it out and you're done. And it was like, the refurb is like the most tricky million moving parts aspect, and then the legals, that's like, it just kind of was a bit too go get properties, people want to see you do well. It's like, well, you don't, because it ain't gonna happen. And like most courses, 90% of people don't do anything afterwards, probably 95%. So it was a lot of podcasts, it was a lot of my own podcast, meeting people, like interviewing them like this. Books, there aren't too many books. I've written two books on Amazon, just if people wanted to educate. And it was... You can put the link below.
He's going to start paying me affiliate program, so I'll put a link below.
Amazon pay me 40 pence, for selling 300 audiobooks, real talk. So you can have 10%
the audio rights,
You can have 10% of that.
Listen, I take my percentages where I can get them, because you never know where they're going to go, and you should never turn down money. So
that's true.
10%.
I'll pay you in copper coins. So
shiny ones, like Alfred said.
Shiny ones indeed. I'll polish them as well for you. So I think education is very, very difficult right now, because it's very easy to pretend to be something you're not, very easy to buy followers. All you lot who buy followers, we know you buy it. Why do you still do it is bait, I won't say your names, but I will say your names off camera. People buy likes, they buy engagement, that Lamborghini on the side of the street, let me take a picture in front of it and put some work hard, play hard. It's like, but the issue is chicken and egg, is that society sees that and falls for it and says, oh, you must be wealthy because you're standing in front of someone's car. Or you've got 10,000 followers. And
also, because there is potentially more money in education sometimes there is in property, it's also chicken and egg in that
100%.
The whole fake it till you make it, you then make it, and then you can say, well, I was never faking it because now I'm rich, so prove it wrong.
But a lot of people don't do that. So it's like any industry where there's a low barrier to entry, you get a lot of bad apples. And so, especially when you can promise the world, right? Oh, you'll lose weight and have a 6-pack in 8 days. No, you won't, unless you're close already. Oh, you can be financially free in a month. We'll find you one deal. No, yes, 1% of everyone may achieve that. Most won't. And so people get bought into that. They believe that it's realistic because some rich expert tells them it is. And it's kind of chicken and egg, and the morals kind of lie with society or they lie with the teacher. I don't know, right? I would say when you're looking for a good educator, one, you want to make sure they're documenting their journey. Is their YouTube, is their Instagram just, oh, do this training course, do this, or marketing. Or
just generic recycled.
Just generic crap,
Because I think, don't get me wrong, I like a good video, a bit of just what's a HMO. Because some people don't know, and it's a good starting point. Specific answers to specific questions. But also, if you're going to be delivering a course and something that has to be, have more meat on it, there then needs to be a lot more and a structure and understanding of, okay, where are we trying to take you? Or where have you come from to where are we trying to take you? So also, I think for a lot of people that do training, I think in the same way, if you want to go to university, you have to have an A-level. Or if you don't have the A-levels, you have to do a foundation course. I do feel like there should be some type of qualification to do a certain, not qualification, but an understanding to do a certain level of course to make sure that people can get value out of it. I know it's hard to do in practice, but like I do like these consultation calls, but whenever, and they're not like, in terms of from my time, it's £140 for an hour. Like it's a lot less than what some other people charge. It's probably a lot more than some people charge, but based on my level of experience, I think it's cheap. However, it's still a significant amount of money. So for me to do them, before I even book you in, I want to know what you want to discuss and where you are. Because if you just want to say, I'm thinking about getting into property and don't know where to start, I'd say
go spend 20 quid on a book or free book.
Not even that. I'd say like, look, these videos alone, like videos that we've done, like Alfred, Luke, like Stephanie, so many great people that have written books that have taken like an hour out of their day to sit down and discuss property. There is like days worth of free content out there. So at a point in time that you've like, you know, immersed yourself in all of that and you have specific questions that you're going to get value from, I feel like that's the point in time to really potentially pay for education.
Yeah, 100%. You can't, like, as a total beginner, there are beginner courses, but you kind of need to do your own research to know what you want to do, maybe,
and even
get an idea of
the beginner courses, because generally there's going to be, from like 99% of people in those beginner courses, some stuff is just common sense. Like,
you'd hope so.
But that's what I mean. For a lot of people, it is. So a lot of people might take a beginner course that, like the person delivering has every right to charge £500 for this beginner course, but you might not feel like you got £500 worth of value because you knew a little bit more than you thought you did, but then you were maybe just being a little bit lazy and didn't work out what it was you don't know and where the gaps in your knowledge that you actually personally wanted to fill.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's why when choosing it, it's even harder because you're like, do I even need it? Am I at the right stage? Who's the right person? And I think, you know, it is a minefield for the reasons we said, but for me, documenting the journey is so important. Like if you're not seeing their properties, their deals, they're not telling you, in my opinion, if they're not sharing the reality of it, which is 95% of people on social media, then like how realistic, think for yourself, wow, these lot are developing property with no issues. Wow. Like, come on, let's not be dumb, right? Like every single business, every single thing has issues and has challenges. If you're not seeing them, even a bit, like you don't have to go the whole depth, right? But then for me, you need to question, like, do I want to learn from someone like that? Because for me personally, I want to learn from someone who has the scars, You've done a flat conversion. Well, if I'm going to do a flat conversion, I'm calling you, or I'm going to learn from you, because you've got the scars of, bloody hell, this acoustic wasn't in there, or the fire regs, we have to do MVHR, whatever. I'll learn that from you. But I know you've done it because I'm here, and I've seen it. Other people need to look for that, because I don't want to learn from the perfect person. I want to learn from the veteran who's got scars.
So that's good. So then with all of that in place and with all of that being considered, when you were putting your stuff together, how did you sort of try and differentiate from other people that are doing it?
Yeah, so with me, you know, if you go on the website or my e-learning, you'll see like there's nothing really promotional. It's very like, this will take time, this is hard.
Because I just, not to interrupt, but I do think like that is one of the biggest issues with it, that everybody wants the quick fix and the golden egg,
silver bullet,
like, you know,
this,
everything to be like tomorrow. And that's in part responsible for those that are looking for an easy option, but also just as responsible to people that are like over-promising and under-delivering in terms of, I guarantee you'll get X out of doing this course. The reason nobody complains about not getting a job after you go to university is they don't pitch you to, this is our university, this is our course, you come, you do well, then you do what it is you need to do with it. And whereas a lot of these short courses or quick fixes, it's the way it's delivered and the pitch, and it's the mis-selling that I think is the issue. Sometimes the course can be reasonable, but if I give you a course, that a 9 out of 10 course, but I say guaranteed to get a job, the course could be amazing. If you don't get a job afterwards or don't get a property afterwards, you're going to say the course was a waste of money.
But a lot of that depends on the person as well. So that's why I say, look, if you don't take action from this, if you're not willing to put this into place, it ain't going to work. Even in the videos themselves, I'm just like, look, like most of you are not going to do this one thing, but you should. Like I'm just blunt and honest with it. And I think if you've been following me and you've seen me go from 0 to where we are now, that's why people buy my education, because of me and because of what they've seen.
Also, they're going to buy it when they get a Property by Kazy discount code for my affiliate link. But we're going to work on that in the future.
Yeah, listen, the link is below. Just click it. It's ready. Don't worry. It's been waiting.
No, but Tej, it's been amazing to have you on. Every time I get somebody on, I ask them one question at the end. Property is something that, you know, motivates loads of people, excites loads of people, particularly at a younger age. And it's great to see that more people are wanting to get involved in property, whether it's ownership, whether it's sourcing, whether it's rent to rent or anything else in the property sphere. But to a teenager who's saying, look, I'm excited by property and I want to get into it and I'm trying to prepare myself to get into property in the future, what tips would you have for them?
This for a teenager?
Teenager.
Listen, just carry on playing PlayStation and Xbox, yeah? Because life gets a lot freaking harder. You got bills to pay, you got laundry to do, you got all this bullshit in life. Enjoy your life. Like, honestly, read some books, listen to some podcasts, but like genuinely, it only gets harder when real life hits you. And if you're a teenager, you're in a stage where you can chill, you live at home, you're living your best life. So please enjoy, right? Life is short, but you've also got time to get there. So read some books, listen to some podcasts. I think there's a TED Talks one. It's quite good, I've heard. You know,
I like the one featuring Property by Kazy. I think that's the best episode.
Yeah, that's the 2 most handsome people in property on one podcast.
Yeah,
it's crazy,
yeah.
There's a few third places and stuff around, but those are the top 2.
No,
so look, I would say enjoy your life, honestly. You do have time to do this stuff.
Well, that's been amazing. I've been Kaz from Property by Kazy. This is Tej.
From TED Talks.
Oh, same face. Every week we're going to have a new episode with a new guest bringing you amazing value. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. If you've got a question for myself or Tej, or he didn't give me enough money to post the link and you want to ask him some questions, leave a comment below and like this video. Peace.